I'm going to be reacting to a video by a YouTuber, the Don Ozzy. The title of the video is called "The Darkest YouTube Cult Leader: The Saint and Sinner Exposed." It was uploaded a year ago, and it is about Marquett, who is an online personality. So please go and show the original uploader some love. And yeah, stand by, guys. Let's get into this.
A cult leader, you probably just envision some 40 to 50-year-old white man who speaks to God. Guys like Marshall Applewhite, Jim Jones, Charles Manson. If I ask you to envision cult members, you probably think of hippies like the Manson family and pretty much any notable cult during the 70s. You likely see them worshipping or venerating some guy or girl who claims to speak to God or maybe even is God. Maybe they know the way to get to God. Would you ever join a cult? 9 out of 10 of you guys watching, maybe even all of you, probably said that you never would. Cults are for idiots, naive idiots. Well, many people think this way. Many people have this idea that cults have a certain look to them and a certain way of being. These are the people that are most primed and most susceptible to cults. Funny thing is, guess how many current and past cult members would have said, "I'm not in a cult," if you ask them? Every single last one, right up until their mass drinking of the Kool-Aid in the case of Jim Jones. Now, what if I told you that there's currently a cult no one is talking about, founded and operated right here on YouTube, with over 1,000 confirmed members and over 100,000 disciples associated with it? A cult that's growing a militia, a dogmatic worldview, and has their own Bible and is led by a cunning megalomaniac right here on YouTube. A cult that draws stark and borderline scary comparisons to the deadly cult of Jim Jones known as the People's Temple. What if I told you this cult and its members are nothing like the people I described and you likely imagined?
Marquett Burton, the Saint.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform.
And the sinner.
To preface this, when I call this group a cult, I literally mean it. Many people call Andrew Tate's fans a cult, but they're more akin to people in an MLM. I'll be drawing comparisons to different cults in this video, especially the People's Temple. The reason being, they're an apt comparison. I don't necessarily mean it's as big of a threat as the cults from the 70s were, but they're both extremely dangerous ideology-wise. Enter Marquett Burton, the saint and the sinner, before we can get down to the members and the nature of this cult, and why it's actually something that requires our attention in the first place. We must know who the cult leader is. In my videos, I'm talking about bad guys most of the time. I find them most interesting to review, but I like to keep things in perspective, and I like to bring up redeeming qualities whenever I can. In this case, however, I'll be trying to actively keep this to a minimum. Not because I think he's worse than anyone I've covered or will cover, although there is an argument to be made that he is. As you watch this video, you'll definitely see why. The reason is, the nature of a cult is for the leader to have many qualities that are good. Thing is, they're all self-serving and for the cult leader's gain. The reference I'll be using most during these videos, like I said, is Jim Jones and his cult. They're just so strikingly similar. It makes no sense for me to talk about how Jim was charismatic and at times compassionate, funny, charitable to his members, etc. Because at the end of the day, it was for power and influence. That was the whole point. He was all of these things to control and exploit his followers, and it culminated in the destruction of 918 people, either being bodied by the militia he created or through drinking poison Kool-Aid. Similarly, Marquett is all these things specifically to get money, power, and influence. With that out of the way, let's begin with the life and career of Marquett, the leader of this cult, before his arrival to the YouTube scene. If you ask him, Marquett is many things.
Marquett Burton, the idol of James Bond, Fax Kellerman, Stephen A. Pimp, your favorite YouTuber's favorite YouTuber.
Yeah, definitely not a narcissist. But if you ask the members of the Assassin, short for the Saint and Sinner Nation, they'll tell you Marquett is a tech entrepreneur who created technology in the same vein as Elon Musk, but of course just slightly less successful. A businessman with multiple different businesses from before his YouTube career and that he currently runs. A public speaker paid by the Chinese government, among other entities, thousands of dollars to speak publicly. A UC Berkeley graduate who graduated top of his class in one of the hardest courses in one of the most prestigious universities, all while being a covert gangster and an expert boxer with lethal hands. To me and you, we don't even have to know his history of manipulation, lying, alleged scams, to know this isn't true. It just sounds too good for anyone really, but especially.
So my knowledge of Marquett is I've seen a few of his reels where he's having a debate with somebody, and tends to be winning the debates. The people he tends to debate seem to be less educated than he is, or younger, so he just has more life experience. I have heard that he was a Berkeley alum. I've heard that he has started businesses and that he's very rich. I have no idea if any of that is true. He's not someone that I felt the need to fact check simply because we don't exist in the same spectrums of YouTube. So I would advise that anyone who is going to debate him to absolutely look up and confirm or deny all of his claims. I think if you're going to go into a debate with anybody, you should try and fact check the things that they have said. That being said, though, I'm not automatically ready at this moment to call him a con man or a liar. So we're going to continue to watch this and see what happens. At the end of this, I might, declare him a con man, or I might declare that I need more evidence. But so far, it's not looking good.
Someone who no one's heard about until he made this cult, until he reached the YouTube scene. If you've done all these things, you should have some sort of name that we should be able to see. But I wasn't making a caricature of their beliefs or his beliefs. They'll actually tell you this. They believe all of this hook, line, and sinker. Luckily, I'm here to save the day and do what all of his followers fail to do, and it's ask the right questions and fact check. Why don't we start with his biggest claim to fame, shall we? His claims of owning and running a tech business. If you've even heard of this guy in passing, you've probably heard him speak of his tech business. He constantly speaks about it, but always makes sure to leave the details out of his business. He makes sure everything is more or less ambiguous. You might be thinking, okay, if he doesn't want to tell you how much he makes, that's fair. The man doesn't even say the name of his tech business. All he'll say is, I made an app. Tell me what app it is. If it's Angry Birds, case closed. We don't have to do any research because we can just look it up, see that you did it, and done. We know you're not a fraud. This is done purposely and with intent. He doesn't want you to research any of this and just take it at face value. But luckily, Marquett was rich and famous before YouTube, right? So surely, if I search him, I should find some info on his net worth, business, and
So that I do find suspicious, because any millionaire that we have been fed through the media can't wait to tell you the names of their companies, their valuation, how much it was sold for. They can't wait to disclose that information. So I do find that a bit suspicious, that he's not only is he not naming the companies, but he's not providing the valuation. I find that a bit suspect. But at the same time, there are people who do like, some type of semblance of privacy. So again, suspicious slightly, but not damning at this point.
other things, right? That's exactly what I did, and you'd probably be surprised to find out that I found nothing of note. But I did find a Forbes article. I can already hear his cult members typing, see, His Excellency was featured in Forbes. Peace to the Saints.
Peace to the Saints!
Peace to the Saints! Well, that's exactly what he wants you to do. To see the Forbes article and not read it.
That was a bit bizarre. Okay, that's all I'm going to say there. That whole piece of the Saints or circle jerk kind of made me a bit uncomfortable.
Because once you read it, you'll find out his name isn't even in the main article. He's just in the picture as a CTO.
But when people say, I've been in Forbes, things like that, this is what they're alluding to. They're trying to allude to the whole Fortune 500 nonsense, okay? But in actuality, the Forbes he's talking about was done by not a Forbes editor, but a Forbes former contributor. Now, if you guys may be asking, what is a former contributor? Well, we just got to highlight what that means. It means that the opinions expressed by Forbes contributors are their own.
So I actually can give you some information about this because I have a little bit of experience with this. If you go on Fiverr, the app or the website, you can find people that are contributors to magazines, to web blogs, to things of that nature, and you pay these people, okay, to then post your article or do an opinion piece about something you've done, or that type of stuff. So the fact that this is a contributor who's done this, that's not an official Forbes employee, okay? The contributors, they pay Forbes a certain price per year to post articles on their website or newspaper. Then the contributors get paid by the users, i.e. me, you, your auntie. Okay, we pay these contributors to put our articles or our opinion pieces or whatever it is on a third-party website, right? So technically it's being posted via Forbes or through Forbes, but it's not written by a Forbes employee. That's the difference, okay? Anybody can get their work or their company onto a site like Forbes through a contributor, okay? That's the main difference. And you always pay for the contributors to put your work out. Unlike, it's the opposite. If Forbes want to do an article on you specifically, or your company, or your product, or your life story, they pay you for your article, your opinion piece, or whatever. That's the difference. So when you're dealing with, anytime you see something that's been posted by a contributor, just know that the person who is the client has paid the contributor to put their information on this particular website or newspaper or magazine. Okay, so there is a big difference there. Because one you're paying for, and the other one they're paying you.
I got to break that down again for you guys, right? Okay. A contributor isn't someone like an editor or someone who is actually working currently at Forbes, right? Where they would say something and you research it and you know it's concrete. Actually, if you really scroll all the way down, all right, you'll actually see where you can actually request her to do an article on you. So it's
He'd have you all believe the article was a Forbes 30 under 30 article about him and how he built some powerful technology used the world over to this day. In reality, it was a second business that he used prior investor money to attempt, which failed. He even states that he cashed out, but this business was never sold. How do I know? He vaguely spoke about it in one of his live streams. And like he always does, he bragged and embellished so the average cult member can believe it and won't look it up.
For the people who don't know. Now, here's the thing. At the time in which I was in Forbes about that business, I was also the CEO of another corporation that was older. So this was a newer company I started that grew so fast and was so cracking. Forbes did a spot on us. But here's the thing. Let me keep it player with you. And this is sharp.
See, that is a bit misleading. Yes, technically your story, your company, your whatever got mentioned in an article on Forbes, but they didn't do a story on you, because that would assume that they reached out to you and they paid you to run a story on you. Well, that's not what happened. No editor on Forbes paid this man a penny. He paid that contributor to run his story, right? But the people who don't really know the difference, it would seem like what he's saying is 100% accurate when it's not. I call that a distortion of fact. Not necessarily a lie. I think it's dishonest, but it's a distortion of facts.
Shout out to the hustlers. Follow my moves. I am the North Star. I will show you how to get free.
Notice his language, his verbiage. I am the North Star. Follow my moves. I will show you how to be financially free. Let's see what he's talking about.
I'm the CEO of one corporation that has significant investment. If you invest into a corporation and the CEO, you definitely don't want them running two different corporations as CEO. You only want them running one corporation. So they're dedicating all their time, effort, and energy to making your money grow.
So that's just not true at all. There are multiple CEOs who run more than one business and run it well, okay? Are those other businesses under the umbrella of one main business? Oftentimes, yes, but they're still separate companies, right? I mean, you can just look at Elon Musk, Tesla, and Starlink, okay? Like, they're two separate companies that are under his umbrella, and he's the CEO of both, right? So, I mean, that's just blatantly not true. Again, though, if you don't know much about businesses and how they're set up and how they can be run, you would think of face value that what he's saying is actually accurate, when it's not. Okay, at the end of the day, if you're popping, right, and you have the capacity to run more than one company to a Fortune 500 company, you're damn right you're going to do it again, okay? That's not taking anything away from what you've accomplished and what you can go on to accomplish with your other company, right? To the end of the day, if you're just good at your job, if you're just that dude or that lady and everything you touch turns to gold, then the more things you touch means the more gold, right? So I vehemently disagree with what he just said there.
But I had another idea that I knew was going to be successful and I couldn't wait on it. So what I did was this. I had a girl I was dating at the time, random white girl, no education from the middle and nowhere, no credentials, no nothing.
So why I find that comment to be quite interesting is because I've watched enough of Marquett's videos, like his clips, to know that he doesn't like white people at all. But as you just said, he was dating a random white girl. This is what I mean about the psyche of some black men. Don't like white people, but will date a white woman. And by his own admission, a random white girl. Like, she's not even important. Like, I don't even know if he sees her as a human, like the way he's describing her. But let's continue.
I positioned her on paper.
With Loop earplugs, you can enjoy any event without feeling overwhelmed or overstimulated. But that's not all. They enhance
As the CEO of this other corporation, then I created the new product under this new corporation.
So as you heard him just say, he found a random white girl with no education and no knowledge of anything and manipulated her and put her as the figurehead to one of his companies. So if anything kicks back and any blowback, it falls on her, the figurehead. Okay? That is dishonest. Okay? That doesn't make you a nice guy. That makes you a horrible person. Okay? Because I bet if we were to find this random white girl, she would probably, love this guy at the time. Meanwhile, look how he's talking about her. He's basically just using her as a patsy, a fool girl, as it were.
But since there are actual critical thinkers scattered throughout the internet, although few and far between, Duke and Don, one of the people sitting in the center roasted, fact-checked all of this. The worst part of it all is that this company is now dissolved and has nothing to show for it. I literally could find no information on it from the app, nothing. In the video, Marquett employs this tactic of creating a plausible idea that his business was sold for millions.
And that's why I tell you guys, I only talk about 1/3 of what I actually do, just so you can hate on that third. Let me tell you how boss I am, and this gonna hurt you. Look, angry man, trip on this. The company that's in Forbes, right? Which side note, anytime you see a company in Forbes and then you never hear about it again, just side note, that usually means that it got acquired.
No, that's not what it means at all. Okay? You can go and check the listings to see what companies have been brought and companies that have flopped. Okay? So I don't even know why he's even saying that. That's just not true. Like, at all. What are you talking about? Do you know how much companies that have been featured in Forbes and have not been acquired? And you haven't heard anything from them in 10 years, but you Google them and find out, hey, they're still going strong. Business is still running. Haven't been acquired by anyone. They just haven't been featured in Forbes again. So I don't know what he's talking about. That's more embellishment. Again, I don't necessarily call that dishonesty. I call that like fluffing. It's like fluffing, trying to sell himself a bit more. And I suppose in the business of being a salesman, that's all fair, right? Like salespeople, they embellish a lot. They fluff. It's part of who they are. At the end of the day, people are not necessarily buying the product; they're buying him. Okay, so embellishment and fluffing, this is part of the business.
It got sold. Bigger corporation gobbled it up and they included it into what they're already doing under their brand or under a different name. That's usually what that means.
If you sold a business, wouldn't you just state it was sold? Why vague post about it and say typically X, Y, and Z happens? Again, this is intentional. His naive, dumb, or inexperienced fans will hear this, and since they don't know much about wealthy people and how they maneuver, business interactions, and general etiquette when it comes to things like that, they assume Marquett sold his thriving business for $3.5 million, and he's been living good and laughing easy ever since. If that were the case, a personality like his, a braggadocious, overconfident, narcissistic personality like his, would bring this fact up every live stream. That's an actual checkmate, so it would be a good idea to be bringing this up on stream.
I am inclined to agree with the narrator here. Someone like Marquett, who presents as an extreme extrovert with a lot of self-embellishment, I fail to see how they wouldn't regularly remind the world that their business was A, sold, and B, how much for, and then C, how they've reinvested that income and they're doubling down on their great life and things of that nature. So I do agree with the narrator there. It's a bit suspicious, I have to say.
Called broke before, and he had nothing to show for it besides getting angry.
Wow. Just so you know, every girl sitting on this side of the table earns more money than him.
Yeah.
Stop. He's an imposter. He's been outed in the past.
And he's mad about it.
He basically LARPs as a rich guy on the internet.
If I was absolutely poor, it would mean nothing.
All the girls,
it would mean nothing.
I think we all are kind of in agreement that we don't really want to sit here and listen to someone who's basically a scam artist tell us what's wrong with our lives.
Well, I mean, that's shots fired, right? I think that geezer is Adam22 or something like that. Apologize if I get your name wrong. But that guy, okay, he's been YouTubing for way longer than Marquett. He's got way more money. I'm going to have to assume, and shoot me for assuming, but I'm going to assume that Adam has done some sort of research, background checks into Marquett. That's why he's saying that with such confidence, because he knows, okay, that this guy is not making the type of money that he's embellishing that he makes. He didn't say he was broke, okay, because obviously these YouTube checks are coming in now, and he's got courses and things of that nature on his website that are extremely expensive, so like thousands. So some people must be paying for it, and he's getting some type of income now. So I would agree with Adam here. I'm not gonna lie.
If you could just say, I sold my business for this much, look it up, you win. You're having arguments with guys like Adam22 about your business when you could have put it to rest by being transparent. But the reality is, he has nothing to show for it in the first place. If that's not enough, a successful company like his allegedly would have some sort of info on it being acquired by a bigger one. And even if that wasn't enough, why has all their social media been dead for years? So to sum it up, Marquett brags about how rich he is outside of YouTube.
What is this? We Not app. We Not, why not? Share your Wi-Fi with a neighbor and make a buck. Our goal is to make the internet accessible and affordable to all families. They are based in Philadelphia. Facebook page. They are joined in May 2015. And this is where it's a bit suspicious. They are following 138 people, and they only have 55 followers. Now, I don't know about you, but if I had a company that was, worth millions, I'm pretty sure I would have more followers than 55. So everything about this particular page just screams as like just fake. It looks fake. It looks like how a scammer would set up a page to trick people into investing in their products that don't really exist, or something like that. It just looks very fake to me, especially as he's trying to suggest that this company was worth millions or was sold for millions. I'm not seeing anything here that would even remotely suggest that what he has would be worth millions. What's this post that is circled? December 6th, 2016. Focus not on the rudeness of others, not on what they've done or left undone, but what you have and have not done yourself. Unknown quote. That person is Andreana Wilkinson's father. I don't know. This seems a bit suspicious to me.
YouTube. how successful he was. But if this is what he's talking about, he's bragging about a failed company. In business, you're gonna fail companies. You're gonna fall down, you're gonna scrape your knee a few times before being successful. We know this. The issue isn't the fact that he failed businesses. It's him bragging about it as if it's Apple or Amazon, lying by implying in an effort to get people to like his ideology and give him money. They need to see him as a big shot who can teach them.
That was actually an interesting phrase, lying by implying. So he's implying success and he's lying about that, or fudging it or fluffing it, lying by omission, okay? But it's all to sell people the reality that he is well off and well to do, and that if you put your trust and your dollars into him, he will turn you into something, I don't know what exactly, a better man, rich. I have actually no idea what his ethos is, but I'm assuming is, around the same type of rhetoric as like an Andrew Tate, I can make you a real man and make you money and you just got to follow me and, XYZ. But unlike Andrew Tate, who actually has millions, I'm not sure if Marquett does. I'm not saying he's poor. Definitely not now. Okay, but I'm not saying that he's got the millions that people think he's got.
The way to make money. That's why he does this. But let me not jump to any conclusions. He actually has another business, and even though he keeps everything vague, I've done some research on it, and it seems this one is more well-known. We are talking about the Fletch app, an effortless attendance technology made by our Marquett Burton.
And he's here with us now to explain how this works. Marquett, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So explain what Fletch is. How does it work?
Fletch is a very simple technology. We use this long-range Bluetooth device.
This one is actually a really innovative and new company. I have to give credit where it's due because
Marquett and Kevin Samuels both got rich off the backs of manipulating a white woman. I want you to really, really understand that. Marquett already explained it, how he made this white woman the patsy, the fool guy, for the companies that he set up, and then that flopped and he stole the people's money. So she's already a fool guy for that. And then you have Kevin Samuels here, who was actually living with this white woman who was paying all the bills, while he was building his career as this so-called rich man who can teach women to know their station, which is clearly paying for everything and being the mammy. So I don't really understand this. This is very odd. But I already said you can't trust these types of individuals. And when you go and look into them, lo and behold, they have a white woman that they were financially and intelligently manipulating to gain the upper hand in the world.
Not you responsible, the whole entire house responsible, Kevin. Kevin Samuels moving cardboard again from out from under his car.
These guys who claim to have been rich and famous and successful prior to YouTube tend to be the opposite. I mean, does it make any sense? Why come on YouTube and speak about how much you don't need it and what you did before? You're trying to sell an idea. It's a smart formula these guys are using. Get online, pretend to be a businessman, and sell courses to become a businessman, and have that be your first successful business. Before we can get to Marquett's actions on YouTube, we need to delve into the cult as a whole and get a general view of the assassin. This video isn't for the members. 9 out of 9, if you're going to be paying this man to go to conferences, reciting vows and statements as if you're praying, you're too far gone. This is mostly for people outside looking in, trying to understand just how deep this is, and in the off chance they get a cult member or two to reevaluate their life, that'll be a bonus. So to illustrate this, take a look at the characteristics of a cult. We know no cult member will admit to being in a cult. They wouldn't be in it if they recognize that. We can't trust their word because they're quite literally not thinking straight. It's the same idea as when you have a battered woman. You can't just ask her, hey, is everything okay? You're getting your ass kicked all around your house. They're gonna tell you everything's fine and you're the one overreacting. So looking at the traits, how many does Assassin and Marquett embody, you ask? All of them. We'll begin with number 1. Authoritarian leadership, especially one that commands control, loyalty, and allegiance. This is exactly who the sinner is. To relate this back to the People's Temple, Jones was a master manipulator who skillfully demanded control over his followers without overtly stating his intention. Through his charismatic leadership, Jones cultivated a sense of trust and loyalty among his followers, making them far more susceptible to his influence. He manipulated their fears, insecurities, gradually eroding their boundaries. How does Marquett do this, you ask? Simple. For one, he's obviously the leader of the Assassin. He literally named his philosophy after himself, which if you don't know, is insanely narcissistic. Platoism and pathetic Pythagoreanism are both Greek ideologies, and though they're named after their founders, they were coined by historians. This dude is so full of himself, he said, shit, let me cut out the middleman, and named it after himself. Anyway, like him, Jones would never outright say, do what I say and think how I think, or you're not part of the cult. In fact, he says, be your own person. But how true is that? Jim never said you can never wear an afro. You must have my haircut. Or you can't like sushi because I like burgers. It's only superficial stuff. It's only superficial stuff that he doesn't care about. Ask Marquett if you can be gay and be part of the Assassin. Ask him if you can be a woman with multiple men and be part of the Assassin. One man and even 50 women is cool according to the Assassin law. No. There are some things you can and cannot do, and following the Assassin law and being obedient to him are two of those things. In fact, he wrote a book you should follow. You'd expect this book to be about the ideology itself or general guiding principles along the lines of The Art of Not Giving an F or self-help books just like that. Nope. His book that he suggests that you'll follow is an autobiography. So it's like my friend saying, hey man, I'm suffering from depression because I lost my house. And I give him a book about me called The Life of Don Ozzie. So obsessed with himself that it hurts. The next trait of a cult leader will be...
Yeah, giving somebody a autobiography in their time of need is diabolical work, especially when that autobiography is about you. I mean, it'd be one thing if you were giving them an autobiography of a person who comes from similar circumstance to them, so they could find some type of relatability and then understand how that person managed to, better their circumstances. But it seems that he's just telling people to buy his book regardless of whatever their circumstances, as if his biography is somehow translatable and relatable to any male in any country of any age, race, or ethnicity or religion. I just find that to be kind of diabolical. Like, what? Like, what?
Talking about is a claim to exclusive truths. This one is almost as easy to demonstrate. Just look at their website or watch any of his videos. He constantly talks about the Bible he created. It's not a big one. It's only 3 sentences, in fact.
Goes, of course, back to the 3-sentence Bible, or the 3-sentence Quran, the 3-sentence Torah. Be yourself, be good to yourself, be good to good people. Just imagine.
Be yourself, be good to yourself, be good to good people. Pretty cool and pretty harmless if you have a preteen level of understanding of the world. First one, be yourself. What does this even mean? It's told to us so often, but this is your Bible. The real Bible is a collection of books telling you the most advantageous way of living, how to get closer to God, and detailing the life and times of Jesus Christ. Whether you believe it or not, that's what the Bible claims to do. But this Bible is to be followed. How about someone like Jeffrey Dahmer? Should he be himself? How about someone that the sinner hates? Someone who swings both ways. Should he be himself? Sometimes yourself needs change, improvement. Sometimes you need to not be yourself, honestly. Moving on to be good to yourself. Again, subjective and abstract. To a teenager or someone naive and impressionable, that sounds profound, sweet and short, right to the point. But playing video games to Marquett is a form of self-harm. He has a very rigid and specific idea of good. He's even against owning dogs as a principle. So that illustrates how what someone sees as healthy and good doesn't necessarily fall into what he would describe.
What the hell is this problem with dogs? What in the world? I have no idea how someone's ethos can in 2025 has some problem with dogs. Like, what's the issue with dogs? Again, if anyone in the comments knows what Marquett's problem with dogs are, can you please, drop some science, let me know, because that baffled me, quite frankly. Like, what the hell was wrong? And what's wrong with gaming? Like, I don't get it. Like, what's wrong with dogs and what's wrong with gaming? Just because you don't like gaming doesn't mean there's something wrong with gaming, right? Like, I'm not understanding. If I want to play a game to unwind after working 10 hours, why can't I do that? How is that ruining my life? I'm not understanding.
Described as good in his Bible. And finally, the most problematic one, be good to good people. This one is the most worthless statement of the whole book. What is a good person? I consider Marquett a horrible...
So that statement is interesting coming from him, who seems like he might not even be a good person, right? Be good to good people. What about that white lady that you manipulated to be your figurehead and your fool girl? Was she a good person? Were you good to her? Same with Kevin Samuels. Were you good to that white lady who was paying all your bills? Were you good to her? Did you show her any type of reciprocity once you got some money in your pocket? No, you didn't. So I just find that to be very odd. That's an extremely odd thing to say.
Person. He probably considered me the same. He considers people who are actively trying to deride the assassin as evil.
And what's worse is you have the demons and devils among us. Oh, they take the lies and run with it. And against someone like me,
some people view the man with a tiny mustache as a good person, and others view every black person, including him, as inherently bad. Jesus loves the Pope just as much as he loves a Satanist. The idea that Jesus taught that the sinner is clearly trying to take and in his eyes improve on is do unto others as you'd like done unto you. Instead, adding his own logically and philosophically failing caveat. Don't get me wrong, I understand why he added that. The idea is clearly so you don't get taken advantage of, but the point still stands. This Bible is nothing more than a slogan for children, and the underlying message is this Bible isn't for everyone. It's for
well, someone who advocates for making sure you are not taken advantage of. He sure has taken advantage of people, though, haven't you? Right? I mean, that's a hypocrite. And I don't think that makes you a good person. But don't get me wrong, right? You can be a kind person and still not be a good person, right? You can be extrovert. You can be a warm person, but not be a good person. So I just find his whole entire persona to be engineered, right? This is a crafted social media personality. And I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at it because in the world of social media and people selling themselves on YouTube, which is what we're doing, this is what I do, it's what he does, it's what we all do, right? When people are subscribed to you and they watch your content, it's you they are coming to see, right? The way you deliver something, the way you speak, the way you look. So I'm not mad at him for inventing a persona. However, I think that there comes a time when a person's persona starts to become who they actually are.
The assassin. Be yourself. Replace that with be a saint. Be good to yourself. Replace that to be good to yourself if you're a saint. And finally, be good to good people. Replace that with be good to saints. There's a clear in-group and out-group. Saints know people who don't subscribe to these ideas are not good people. So they actively try and distance themselves and keep their closeness to a minimum. On the topic of religion, Marquett uses it expertly to get people to convert to his religion. He will never outright say Christianity is false or Islam is false or deride any religion like that. What he will do is characterize the religion falsely, put himself in the conversation as someone to follow, as well as follow that religion. He'll talk some light praise to the religion, followed by a caricature of it, and then placing himself as the best of both worlds. Ideology isn't in direct contradiction with the Abrahamic religions. It doesn't say you being part of the Sassen supersedes Islam or Christianity. They work in tandem, you see? The deen has been infiltrated. You don't have to leave Islam, but join me. Christianity is used in the wrong ways. You don't have to leave Christ, but join me. Don't go to church, don't go to the mosque. Go to my Sunday services instead. Instead of learning to give back to the poor and help them out from that silly old Bible, you can go ahead and read my Bible and learn that poor people are poor for a reason and we shouldn't help them. There are poor people who are poor for a reason, just like there are rich people who are rich for a reason.
I dare you to let me build you a completely free e-commerce store preloaded with 20 handpicked products.
Hard work and smart grinding. But there are others who are rich.
I mean, I just find that sentence or that phrase to just be so ridiculous and redundant because obviously you're poor for a reason and obviously you're rich for a reason. Duh. That's how causes and reasons work, right? That's not a profound statement. Like, what? Yes, you're going to be poor for a reason. Yes, you're going to be rich for a reason. I'm not understanding the significance of that. That's not philosophical. But for some reason, people might hear it and think that he's saying something. He ain't saying nothing.
Because of handouts, lottery winnings, being born into wealth, complete and utter blind luck. In the same vein, there are poor people who are poor because they're bad people, But there's also people who have been dealt a bad hand, such as mentally and physically disabled people. There is nuance. You might be asking, why would he care to do this? Because one, men of faith, whether it be religious or otherwise, are some of the most devout people. Think about vegans. They'll go to war over that burger you're eating. If I can get someone with a deep belief onto my side, I can likely get them to believe in what I'm saying at the same level. That's why he does so. Specifically Muslim men. Not only does it coincide a little bit with his ideology, for instance, both condone violence in certain settings, multiple wives, more patriarchal, things like that. Muslim men are the most devout followers of any idea in the world, literally willing to die for their cause. So he's smart. He can't alienate that subset of people from his group. He must have them be a part of his cause. Like pretty much every major religion, they tell you to abstain from bad things. Islam, you need to do good deeds to outweigh your bad deeds, so hopefully you get to heaven. Christianity, Jesus paid for your sins, and out of love, you're supposed to try and be as Christ-like as possible. But the sinner's philosophy is to embrace your sinful nature when you see fit, or when it coincides with his bidding, or for the good of the sass. It's not about being a good person all the time. It's about being a good person when it's convenient and being a good saint. And we're not talking about being a saint like St. Francis or St. Augustine. There's a reason I've been calling him the sinner the entire video. It damn near feels sacrilegious to call him anything but that. The next one is one of the most nefarious and diabolical tactics that the sinner uses, and that is maintaining that they're the ones with the truth and that the outside world poses a risk and even death to its members. While doing research on this is one of the most recurring themes that the sinner uses to control his cult. Everyone is against us, from your church to your government, and ostensibly all non-saints.
You are being oppressed by your government. If you don't realize it, you're just not very intelligent.
He would never claim to have received divine revelations from God like Jim Jones. The sinner would have you believe that if he's not saying, I am God, worship me, it's not a cult.
Cults are about the leader having sex with your wife or doing weird things to your kids or thinking that they're God. When I tell you, whatever religion you have come to me with, Christianity.
Newsflash, buddy. We're not all as naive as Sass. One thing that he did do is that he would manipulate crisis constantly. If you got your news from him, you think it's doomsday every day. Every crisis, or possible crisis, any news he can use to scare people into joining the assassin, he uses it. The same tactic Jones did with his cult. Jones manipulated real-world events to reinforce his narrative of the persecution and danger that they were constantly in. For instance, he exaggerated incidents of harassment or surveillance by outside entities to justify his control.
So I don't have much to say about any of this section because I generally have no idea what type of content he puts out on a regular basis. I've only been exposed to this man through like 30-second clips, shorts, and clips on Instagram. So I have no idea what his day-to-day, plan of attack is per se. But I just seen as he was scrolling, so he obviously tries to stay up to date with current affairs, which I don't necessarily think there's anything inherently wrong with that. If he's a bit apocalyptic, okay. I mean, if you ask a Christian, it's been the end of days since Jesus so-called died, right? Like, I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with being like apocalyptic in the way he, delivers his messages. It's not something that's my cup of tea, right? I wouldn't subscribe to it because I don't really do fear-mongering politics. So that's not really something for me. I feel like there are enough situations popping off on the planet that are terrible that I can just report on that without having to embellish and like be all apocalyptic and just constantly saying how terrible the world is and things of that nature. I don't have to make that my persona because it's not at all how I am in real life. I don't really think that one must be an apocalyptic type of voice or narrator to be successful, but at the same time I understand that it does bring in a lot of views, especially as people who are religious and tend to agree that we're living in the last days, be more inclined to click on a video if the title and the thumbnail suggest that the state of the world is getting worse and worse. They will be more willing and more open to your message. So again, to me, it's just marketing
over the group. He would use these incidents to rally his followers and reinforce their belief in his leadership as their protector. When people would check on Jonestown, because it's a crazy cult that isolates family members.
So when it comes to this whole protector BS, okay, I didn't subscribe to any of it at all, for a multitude of reasons. But the main reason why I don't subscribe to it is because you can't be the protector and the perpetrator. That doesn't make sense. Okay, one is either a protector or a perpetrator. In the case of a lot of black men, they are, without a shadow of a doubt, the perpetrators. So you then can't then try and sell me this version of you being a protector, when statistics will show that you are a perpetrator. You're not a protector. Okay? I'm just talking about black people in a black unit or a black community, okay? Overwhelmingly, the people ruining the neighborhoods and ruining the children are black men. So him even suggesting that he could be a protector in anything, to me, is just absurd. It's just absurd, okay? I find that whole thing just to be absolutely ridiculous. Okay, black men have not protected anybody but themselves. So I find that just to be just an outrageous rhetoric. When they say it, when I hear it, it irritates me a lot because, like I said, you're the perpetrator, not the protector. But, that's just my own unpopular opinion. You can come at me in the comments. We can have a debate about it. We can talk about it. But I'm not going to change my mind unless I'm presented with an argument that is cogent and concise and actually makes sense, okay? One can't be the protector and the perpetrator. You can't want to assault me and then want to love my cousin, okay? It doesn't work like that. So, no. Yeah, so kind of just go from there, really. I just find that whole situation to just be very odd.
Instead of Jones saying, hey guys, people are rightfully investigating us, he'll tell his members that they're being persecuted and use that as proof that they have the truth.
Lay down the tears and agony. I tell you, I don't care how many screams you hear, I don't care how many anguish cries. Death is a million times preferable to 10 more days of this life. If you knew what was ahead of you, if you knew what was ahead of you, you'd be glad to be stepping over. If we can't live in peace, then let's die in peace. There's just 1,000 people, so we don't.
See, this is the whole thing with these apocalyptic preacher people. They're just depressed, right? And because they're just horrible people, they want the rest of the world to be just as empty inside as they are. It was hard for me to even understand what he was saying. It's like a weird type of I don't know if they've changed his voice or something. I'm not really understanding, but it's quite hard for me to make out what he's saying. But the parts I can make out, it's a load of nonsense. Okay, this is a person who has no light within them, that probably has never really even smiled outside of manipulating somebody and getting their way over somebody, completely dead in the eyes. They have nothing behind the eyes. Trying to tell everybody else that there's nothing ever going to be better, so we might as well all just jump on this ship and alive together. What type of thinking is that? It's diabolical, right? These people are despicable humans. They are horrible people. Just absolutely horrible.
Level, and that's why I say appreciate me while I'm here. You see, because there's certain levels of cooperation the government will get out of me, and there's certain levels of cooperation that the government will not get out of me as a man, and there will become a point where they ask me to bend over and take it up the rear end, and I won't be going for it. And if that means that'll be the last time you see me or they see me.
Does this remind you of anyone? Call out his cult and you're a broke hater. It's not because you guys have all the makings of a cult and you're a lifetime scammer. No, it's because we don't want to see you win. And furthermore, we know the assassin is the truth and the light, and we're devils, so we hate that. Jones also instilled fear in his followers by warning them of the persecution they would face if they left the People's Temple or questioned his authority. He often cited examples.
I'm actually still shocked that he just took it to sodomy. Like, what in the world? Like, what? Where the hell did that come from? Like, I get it, you're homophobic for whatever reason. I don't care. That's stupid. But, like, why in the world did he just randomly just say something about sodomy? I'm. If anyone knows, like, point it out to me in the comments. I'm super confused.
Examples of government agencies, the media, and other groups conspiring against them, portraying the outside world as a hostile or dangerous place. For example, he claimed that law enforcement agencies were plotting to destroy the People's Temple and harm its members. I wonder who that reminds me of.
Garbage. It's not a racial thing, it's a corrupt government thing. The government and the police force is extraordinarily corrupt. You get nothing back. They are oppressing you, they are controlling you. You have no rights or freedom. That's what we're actually dealing with.
I mean, I do agree with that part. I tend to think the government is basically very corrupt. And because of that, nearly all the offshoots of organizations that come out of the government tend to be very corrupt too. But I think that's just because of the way that governments are set up, and you have people that have extremely important and powerful roles, and they're able to manipulate and corrupt and steal people's resources and embezzle and do all those types of things because of their station. I think corruption in some countries is worse than it is in others. But generically, yeah, I pretty much think every government on earth is corrupt. I don't necessarily think that's a wrong statement. I just think that the levels of corruption vary, right? And some countries are just visibly more corrupt than others.
We're in revolutionary times. If you work for this government,
Not a cult, guys. Not a cult. Don't forget that. The more I say it, the more true it is. Before we move on to the next one, I can hear it now. The assassin and assassin sympathizers alike are already commenting. Hey man, this is awfully dramatic. Jones said they should be willing to lay down their life for him. All the sinners saying that he's willing to die for them. That's it. Well, that's exactly what Jones implored to eventually get his people to be willing to drink the Kool-Aid once that time came. Jones exploited the fear and insecurities of his followers, instilling a sense of impending doom and persecution from external forces. He would talk about how much he loathed the world and quote-unquote persecution he was facing. And he slowly introduced the concept of dying for your beliefs to his followers, initially framing it as a noble sacrifice or an act of loyalty to the cause. This is what is known as gradual desensitization. Jim Jones also often presented himself as willing to die for his followers and their beliefs. He frequently used rhetoric to reinforce his image as a selfless leader who was dedicated to the well-being and salvation of his followers. Sounds a lot like our friend the sinner here. Jones emphasized the idea of sacrifice and martyrdom. Jones' statement about being willing to die for his followers and their cause served to further manipulate and control his followers. He presented himself as a martyr figure, thus strengthening his hold he has over their loyalty and devotion, convincing them that he was their ultimate protector and savior. This rhetoric also contributed to the atmosphere of fear and obedience within the People's Temple. Members believed that their leader was prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice for them, and thus they should be able to do the same. You see, when it comes to cults, there's levels to it. No one's going to have a t-shirt that says, "Hey, I'm a cult leader," on their chest. And they're not going to start their services with "Welcome to the cult of Jim Jones, in which I want your full devotion or you'll be exiled." If that was the case, the People's Temple wouldn't have been a thing. There's the odd cult that outright pretty much says that they're a cult. You know, the cults in which the guy actively claims to be God or the second coming, etc. But those ones are obvious. People are just worshiping a figure, no one's taking it too serious or is willing to die for it. Now, I'm not saying the sinner's end goal is a mass exit, nor am I accusing him of any crimes whatsoever. I want to make that very clear. I think he actually just enjoys the power and stroking of his ego. But I am saying this. The biggest and most dangerous cults are the covert ones. The ones that don't say, "Hey, welcome to my cult." Instead, they say, "Hey, welcome to the family, the Manson family." Or, "Hey, welcome to Jonestown, home of the People's Temple." Or, "Hey."
So while I agree with him, here's what I will say. I think in this day and age, a person can start a YouTube channel and grift, okay? That's fine. And then as your following grows, your followers begin to seek you out for more and more and more validation. That could spearhead somebody into a sort of godlike role. Even if that wasn't their original idea, I think people have a tendency to put a lot on other people, right? For instance, you watch a video and Marquett may make you feel better for whatever reason on this one particular subject. And then he puts out another video on a different subject. But because he's already won you over with the video before, you're more open to come into his train of thinking in the next video. And just like that, it perpetuates until you don't really have any three independent thought anymore, okay? You are parroting the thoughts of somebody else. And I'm not sure if people are even aware that's what's happening. I'm not sure. I don't think people who were in cults or part of a cult at the time when they were in it would have ever said or thought that they were parroting the beliefs and opinions of their leader. They generally think that these thoughts, these opinions come from themselves, right? But they've given away to critical thinking and independent thought. They are, at this point, an NPC, just roaming around with somebody else's ideologies as their character persona, in essence. So I think, not all people who have cults intended it to be a cult. Sometimes it transformed into a cult because individuals are really, really willing to give up their autonomy for the hope of living a stress-free life, right? People do it all the time. It's the same reason as to why, you find women who are habitually in abusive relationships will get into another abusive relationship because the man, even though he's abusing them, is offering them some semblance of stability. Maybe it's because he works a 9 to 5, or he's independently wealthy, or he runs a business. Okay, people are willing to give up parts of their autonomy for what they consider to be life enrichment. So I think that needs to be really addressed as well, because I'm not sure about Marquett's goals. I don't know what his aim was when he first started doing this, so I can't really say that he intended to be a cult or a cult leader. I still can't even say if he is one or not. But what I can say is that we have to really decide and understand whether he even wanted it to be a cult, and if it is a cult, did he want it to be a cult from day one? Or is that something that has developed because more and more men are coming to him for guidance, right? I'm not really sure the difference really between, say, a religious or spiritual leader and a cult leader. I don't really see the difference, to be totally honest, yeah. It's just that one we consider to be positive and the other one we consider to be negative, right? So I'm not really seeing much of a difference, to be totally honest.
Welcome to the Saint in the Center Nation. Peace to the Saints.
Peace to the Saints. I want to welcome everyone to...
The next one is that the cult separates themselves socially. This one is obvious. You can hear him say the Sasson or nothing many times in live streams. He won't deny this. He actually stands by this idea. After that is the cult practicing elitism. If it wasn't already painfully obvious, here's further proof.
That we are the leadership class because we're smarter, stronger, more principled. We will be able to rule over the multitude, but that doesn't mean we need to be tyrannical or we need to be overly self-interested. And I've observed certain folks like trying to grab at attention.
We're going to rule over everyone, but we'll be nice about it. I promise you, no one with any leadership qualities is paying monthly to be part of the Assassin or go to these cornball getaways.
I would have to agree. So I don't disagree with what Marquett said, okay, because that is just how rich people and, you know, the big company owners, that's how they think, right? Some are aware that they're horrible people, others are not horrible people, but they're not trying to be good people either, right? I don't take any, you know, offense to him saying that out loud, because, I mean, that's capitalism again, right? So that doesn't necessarily bother me. It bothers me though when I come to find out how you exclude people and how you judge that someone is a part of the, you know, in ruling elite. How are you differentiating between your followers? I'm not really sure what they're called. I don't know, associates. I'm not sure what he calls his people, but how are you grouping them into hierarchies? What are the factors that you are looking for and judging, right? Are you elevating the people within your organization that truly have earned elevation? I'm more interested in those types of things than his general statement, because I mean, it is what it is.
Problem for me. There's no problem you can create for me.
There's no problem.
But there's an infinite number of problems I can create for you. I didn't tell you to shut up. I am not a passive aggressive man.
What was this?
I'm not a passive aggressive man. If I tell you to shut up, I'll just look you in your face and say, Matthew Dubenmeyer?
Yes, sir.
German? I'll say, Matthew Dubenmeyer, shut up. I don't have to be passive aggressive.
He actually thought this made him look good. This video is still up on his channel. He's proud of it. I truly implore you to watch the full video of anything I've shown here, from his live streams to his videos to anyone who's fallen victim to this guy's videos. I'm not taking anything out of context. He's truly this manipulative. The man had a mental breakdown at the win because they didn't respect him in his pimp coat. And in return, he basically threatens him and says that soon he will know who he is. For one, I highly doubt that.
Okay, so that was an interesting video. Yeah, let me know what you think. Drop your thoughts and feelings and opinions in the comment section.